seconds.
Is this where the damn drumming and the music kicks in?
Yeah. What is going on, everybody? I am so happy to be coming back to your ear holes for another episode of On the Pipe podcast. Thank you so much for joining me here on this Tuesday, September the 7th. That means we are just in time for OTP Tuesdays. Once again, I'm your host, as always, Tyler Shepherdson. And boy, do we have a lot to talk about and a lot to catch up on. I know if you're hearing my voice right now, it probably sounds unfamiliar. Like, who is this guy? Is there another host of this podcast? I didn't even know this podcast existed. What is OTP? On the what podcast? I know that's probably where you're at, but we have a lot to talk about, a lot to catch you up on of why I disappeared for a couple months, and also some stuff going on in today's world. We're going to talk about some preliminary silly season stuff. I've been hearing through the grapevine of a couple different things going on, a couple different changes to be made, and one outlandish thing about a very well-known rider that you all know of that we're going to address at the end of this show, because it is so absurd that I can't even believe that it would be true, but at the same time, it is coming from so many people that would not lie about it, and they're absolutely in the know. So we're going to get to that at the end. First, just a little bit of a rundown of the show. I'm going to be completely honest with you. My headspace got completely messed up a few months ago. There's a lot of stuff going on. There's a lot of stuff that I've talked about on the show. There's a lot of stuff that I've talked about to buddies and people on the side, and just a lot of stuff that's been going on throughout this whole entire 2021, and it all basically culminated to a point where I needed to get away. I needed to take a step back. I needed to readjust. I needed to reassess what was going on and really find out where the future of this podcast is, where the future of Tyler Shepherdson is, where the future of OTP is, and really how all of this stuff pieces together. So I know I sound a little bit cryptic about it now, but the reason why I've waited this long to do another show is that I wanted to explain to you all what all happened, what all has transpired throughout this year, but I wanted to do it in a way that wasn't emotional. I didn't want to do it based off of emotion. I didn't want to do it right in the moment. I wanted to take this time. I wanted to think about it. I wanted to sit back. I wanted to readjust, reevaluate, see what was going on, and make sure that when this information came to you, it came in a very tactful manner. I think that is the number one importance of this, is that it does need to come in a tactful manner. I made some bullet points, kind of laid it all out. I'm going to walk through everything and hopefully be as tactful, as I mentioned, that I can about it, and basically just speaking facts. And after that, I'll kind of get into a little bit more of it from that standpoint. But like I said, I know it sounds cryptic now. Hopefully, we can clear some stuff up by the end of this. But first, I want to start out, as always, our intro music. You heard it when the show started. Super cool intro music. It was recorded by my good buddy Devin Byram, who helped actually start this show. Did I say it was written? He played the drums in it. He wrote the drum part, I guess you could say that. So big shout out to Devin Byram. Really appreciate that. As I mentioned, he is one of the founding members of On the Pipe podcast and really got this thing up and going with me 4 years ago now. More than 4 years ago, which is kind of crazy to think about as well. But playing the guitar in that little intro at the beginning was former Supercross 250 West Coast champion Justin Hill. So big thanks to those guys. Also, big congratulations to Devin and his wife. They actually just had their firstborn child. What's today? Today is Tuesday, on Friday, so just a few days ago. So congratulations to Devin. Very happy that he's moved into that part of his life and left talking to a microphone in their kitchen coffee table to me. But yeah, big shout out to Devin, and actually Justin Hill just had a baby a few months ago too. So a couple fresh fathers there recording the OTP intro. Always thankful for them and always thankful for that music to play us into the show. Also want to give a shout out to our buddies over at Ichthus CBD. We've talked about Ichthus CBD several times in the past. It is 100% natural. It's a much better choice than ibuprofen, things like that. You can do all the research that you want yourself on CBD itself and how beneficial it can be for you. And then you can also visit Ichthus's website and see exactly what makes Ichthus CBD better than all the other CBDs. And there is actually a lot of research that goes into it. That's just not a claim that they pull out of thin air and say, hey, we're going to say we're the best. They have a lot of clinical studies and a lot of things on their website that I've talked about, kind of broken down a few of the different ones throughout the shows in the past. But I encourage you to go to their website, check it out. Tons of testimonials on there, tons of research on there, and tons of things on there. You can find that at ichthuscbd.com. That is IKTHUS CBD.com. Also, really cool thing from Ichthus going on right now. They have a post on Instagram that just went out earlier this afternoon. If you tag a buddy in that post that you want them to try CBD, or you want to try CBD for yourself, you can go to Ichthus CBD's most recent Instagram post at Ichthus CBD. And you tag a buddy in that. Your buddy can tag people in it. You can keep on tagging people. They're going to pick 5 people at random this Sunday to give a whole starter pack to. So go on there, tag a buddy, and you could win yourself your very own starter bundle, which includes gummies, tinctures, and a CBD cream that you can try out yourself and see what all the hype is about. And it's a no hassle way to perhaps get your hand on some Ichthus CBD. And then they also have a guarantee that you will like their product. Trust the results, trust the product. So you can check them out at Ichthus CBD. Once again, that's IKTHUS, and get on that last post that they made, and maybe you can get yourself some free Ichthus CBD. And then when you want to re-up, they have several athletes in the sport. They're all about dirt bikes. They sponsor several dirt bike riders. You can go on their website and find the list of athletes, find the ones that you want, and use their promo codes, and that's going to save you money off of your Ichthus CBD if you choose to order some. Also, want to give a big shout out to our buddies over at Armored Graphics. Armored Graphics has been with us from the beginning. As you all are well aware of by now, they were the graphic sponsor of the JGR Suzuki team when they were still here in Charlotte. They're still doing great work, doing all sorts of stuff, all different types of bikes. You can check them out, armoredgraphics.com, or on the social medias at Armored Graphics. Used to be spelled with an X, now graphics is spelled the normal way. So check out our good buddies over at Armored Graphics, and as always, you can use promo code OTP when you order online. It's going to save you 15% off of any kit that you want. So go on there, find yourself a kit. There has been several OTP kits out there in existence. If you've seen them, I put one on a Yamaha and then sold it before I even rode it. Kind of disappointed because it looked so good and I never even got to ride it. Good buddy of the show, Trevor Barrett, he actually had the first OTP kit, and that one was on a KTM. He actually raced with that same kit, a fresh kit for Loretta's this past year, just a few weeks ago. And then Andrew Coffey is rocking an OTP kit on a Kawasaki right now. So we got some OTP kits in existence. If you want an OTP kit, you're going to have to hit me up because we're still getting it dialed in. It is not on the Armor Graphics website. It is exclusive to you OTP listeners. And if you want any other kits, they are all equally as awesome. You can use promo code OTP when you order online at armorgraphics.com. If you want to see an OTP kit or you yourself want to get an OTP kit, let me know. We'll get you 15% off of that. If you're going to run an OTP kit, I might even throw in some money with you and help support Armor Graphics and help support OTP. Anyway, thank you for that. Thank you for listening. Thank you for joining me. It's been quite some time. And as I mentioned, I didn't feel right. There has been some stuff going on, especially like the KR stuff with Moto. There's been some injuries. There's been some champions. There's been the ISDE. There's been several things going on that I've wanted to jump on and do an OTP Tuesday about, or maybe try to squeeze in some interviews over summer break, but I really felt like I couldn't bring out another show until I addressed why I was gone so long. And a part of the reason why I was gone so long is, if you've been listening to the show throughout the year, then you've heard me say that I've been up to something. And I know a lot of people knew what I was up to. I know a lot of people didn't know what I was up to. But the way that whole thing transpired is a lot of the reason why I took some time off the podcast. So just to get right into it, for the past 4 years, I was the announcer for the Full Gas Sprint Enduro Series. The Full Gas Series was started by Hooper 6 years ago, and then I joined a couple years after that, and I was announcing for the Full Gas Series. And I spent a year and a half of that time helping set up with the Full Gas Series. So going out there, setting up the tracks, getting there on Monday, hammering stakes, setting up staging, laying out 15 to 20 miles of ribbon. That is no exaggeration. Each Full Gas test was 3 to 4 miles. Sometimes a little bit more, sometimes a little bit less. But on the average, 3 to 4 miles. You got to think, both sides of that gets 100% ribbon. So 3 to 4 miles, that's 6 to 8 miles of ribbon per test once you ribbon both sides of them. And in the woods, you got a lot of trees that you're wrapping that ribbon around. In the fields, there are no trees, so you're hammering thousands of stakes into the ground. It is a very hard race to set up. It's a very hard series to run. It's a very hard series to promote, and it takes a lot of work. And there's a big props to Hooper and how he got it done, because he was the first one doing that in America. The Sprint Enduro format is very similar to what they run overseas at the ISDE, which actually just concluded this past week. But it takes a lot of work, and most of the time now it is the quickest, fastest, I don't know what's the proper term there, but it's the fastest growing discipline in off-road racing in America right now. But when Hooper did it, it didn't exist here. No one else was doing it. But now that it is happening, if you look at the other people that are doing sprint enduro races, most of them are running it by clubs. Most of them have a small army of people out there setting these things up. I want to say but I only did it for a year and a half. Hooper was doing it with a skeleton crew. I mean, I'm talking about 2 people knocking these things out in a week. 2, sometimes 3, sometimes 4. If we were lucky, then landowners, they would come out and help too. But really, it was a very small crew setting up all these races. And I mean, like I mentioned, that's 12, 14, 16, 18, 20 miles of ribbon that you're hammering stakes. So you're walking the entire thing to hammer the stakes. You're walking the entire thing to ribbon it. And then you're spending all weekend going and fixing the ones that people run over and run through. And then you're going back and tearing it all down afterwards. It's a lot of work. I don't know why I got off on a tangent about how much work it was. But Full Gas was one of those things that I took a lot of pride in, because I was the first announcer. I was the only announcer that technically had that role of announcer, and I tried my best to make it my own. I tried my best to be myself, and I tried my best to keep people engaged and keep people laughing. And I think one of my favorite things about it was just how close-knit the Full Gas community was, which the off-road community as a whole is already close-knit like that, but Full Gas, I think, was one more step, because it was the same people every single week, and there was every single race, rather. There was moto people, there were hare scramble people, there were enduro people. There were people from all over that came to race this new format and really fell in love with it and kept coming back. So it was really cool to be the voice of it, and a lot of times I was the face of it. I'm up there sitting there talking and stuff. I think Hooper did a great job. I think it was a very well ran series. Aesthetically, from the format, the way everything looked, the presentation of it online, the presentation of it in person, the trailers, the flags, the banners. It was a really great series to be a part of, and I will always be proud that I somehow had the opportunity to help be a part of that. Those are some of my best memories in racing. The last year of Full Gas, unbeknownst to anybody, Caleb Russell won it for the second year in a row, his third time overall. He won the very first one, and then he quit racing them for a while, and then he came back, and he won 2 championships in a row. And that last championship he won, I got one of his wife Chandler gave me one of the championship shirts, which I still have put up. And then also Taylor Jones gave me a championship shirt when she won her 3rd straight Full Gas title. And to be a part of that and just have a small thing like that just means so much to me. And all the people I met, I'll forever be grateful for, and all the things that I learned. I mean, I learned more about the industry working for Full Gas than I have anywhere else. And a lot of that is because of Hooper and everything that Hooper's done throughout the industry and to get to where he was. Hooper is a wealth of knowledge about racing, about business, about everything. So Full Gas was something that was really cool to me and something that I very much appreciate. Now, back at the beginning of January, I got a text and it said, "What are you going to do now that Full Gas is done?" And I said, "What are you talking about?" And they said, "Check the Instagram." Got on Instagram and I see the post from Hooper that said that they were closing the doors, that the last season of Full Gas had happened and that they weren't going to be returning for 2021. And it was a complete shock to everyone. I think Hooper texted a couple people that morning to ask if they thought it was a good idea. But I think obviously mine was already made up and put that press release out and effectively canceled the Full Gas Sprint Enduros. And I had no knowledge of it. I didn't even know that it was an option. I didn't know that it was something that was being thought about. I found out, I would say at the same time as all of you, but I found out after a lot of people because, like I said, I got a text telling me to go look at the Instagram. So, yeah, it was crazy. It kind of took me by surprise for sure, mainly because I knew what that entailed about not having that race family, and even like the Hoopers, like Hooper and his family and his parents and his in-laws and his brother and brother-in-laws. And it was just a really fun race series to be a part of and a really fun experience to have. And it was really cool for me, like I said, to be able to announce it. And I mean, there's nothing better than people coming up and saying, "Oh man, I heard what you said on the mic earlier. I was cracking up laughing." I tried my best to make as many dad jokes as I could, make sure people were still listening, and just walking around and drinking with everybody and getting dinner with everybody and getting breakfast from families. And it really was like a little family, and it was a bummer to see it go. Anyway, to get off of that whole tangent that I just went on there, this is where this entire thing started to transpire. All the stuff I said I was up to earlier in the year, everything that happened between January and now, all culminated with that Instagram post saying that Full Gas was over. And that's the main purpose of this. So let me just breeze on by my personal experience and just get through what had happened. I know the way that Full Gas closed and the way that US Sprint Enduro happened had everybody confused. And really what I want to do is shed a little bit of light on that and say what happened. And I'm not trying to step on anybody's toes. I'm not trying to get anyone all riled up. I'm not trying to make anyone mad. I'm not trying to base this off of opinion. All I'm going to do is give the facts from my side. And that's why I said I want to be tactful with this. I don't want to set myself up to get in trouble or have someone mad at me or anything like that. So all I'm going to do is say black and white what happened from my experience. This is 100% my experience and the way that I interpreted these things. And if anybody thinks that this is not how it happened, I'd be more than happy to talk to you on air about this and we can figure it out together. But from my interpretation of it, the post comes out. Hey, we're no longer doing Full Gas anymore. I reach out to Hooper. That was on a Friday. I reach out to Hooper, didn't get an answer back. Called him on Friday, didn't get an answer. Called him on Saturday, didn't get an answer. Sunday, he gets back to me, and we start talking. I was like, oh, damn, like, what inspired you to do this, or why'd you want to walk away from it? And we kind of talked about his personal reasons and the reasons why he was stepping down, which are justified. They're completely justified. I mean, I understand where Hooper's coming from, and I don't think he had anything else left to prove. He started it from nothing, and it turned into something very successful and very fun, and it had a good run, and it had a lot of prestige, and it was a big change, and he has a lot to be proud of for everything that he did with that series, and it was just his time to step down from running it. And I get that. So yeah, I guess backing up a little bit, I got the text saying that the Instagram post happened. Within 20 minutes of me seeing that post, I got called from 2 different people that wanted to get involved with the series. So 2 different people that reached out to me and said, hey, let's figure out how to get this thing. Let's figure out how to keep this thing going. And 2 unrelated people, unrelated parties, both called me and they're like, hey, let's get this thing done. So I had the knowledge, and I was a part of the series, and both of these people each had their own separate monetary, what's the word I'm looking for? Monetary contributions to this, and wanted to see that it kept happening. And this was a thing that everyone wanted to see keep happening. I mean, GNCC wanted it to happen. National Enduro wanted it to happen, because it's just more series and more places for the factory teams to be. And it's more justification for the factory guys to hire riders when they have 3 series to race, and they're getting their name out there with 3 big series like that. So 2 calls, 2 different people wanting to continue the series. That is when I started reaching out to Hooper. Really just want to touch base with him, see what was going on, and then also let him know, hey, let's keep this thing going. Let me see here. So then it got to the point where we got the information about the business, so all the assets and just the back-end stuff about the business, and we were in talks about it, and we knew that there was another party involved. That other party was Billy Schlag, who is running U.S. Sprint Enduro now. So knew Billy was involved, knew Billy was in talks, knew Billy was interested in purchasing the Full Gas Sprint Enduro series. On my end, we were negotiating the purchase of the Full Gas Sprint Enduro series and all the assets, all the creative material, all of that. So that was our plan. Somewhere down that line, we found out that Billy chose to not want to pay the price to get the Full Gas name. And that's all he was looking at with as far as things of value, was having the Full Gas name to be able to keep it rolling. Hey, this is the Full Gas Sprint Enduro series. So found out Billy was no longer interested in pursuing the Full Gas Sprint Enduro series. So it took us roughly 3 weeks to negotiate everything, piece out all the different assets, what we wanted, what we didn't want, and then finally agree on a price, agree on a number, and throw it out there. And finally, we all agreed on a number. Once that began, it was time to start calling around to keep the things going. And by that, I mean calling the landowners, setting up schedules, calling the AMA, letting them know what was going on, calling sponsors, letting them know what was going on. And it all started when I called. I knew so also during the middle of this, the title sponsor, the person that handles the sponsorships for events and things like that, got a new position. So that position was changing in the middle of all of this. So I knew the previous guy real well, didn't know the new guy at all. So I was going back and forth with him, going back and forth with the old guy, going back and forth with their boss. And it was just a big runaround, really, just trying to figure everything out. But the initial call was, hey, my name's Tyler. We're purchasing the Full Gas Sprint Enduro series. We'd like to keep things going just how they've been going. And the immediate response was, what do you mean? Billy Schlag bought the Full Gas series. Said, no, Billy didn't buy the Full Gas series. We bought the Full Gas series. Well, that's weird. Let's figure this out. So then I called the AMA. Hey, AMA, just want to let you know, I'm taking over the Full Gas series. We're going to buy it. We're going to run it. What do you mean you're going to buy it? You're going to run it? Billy already bought the Full Gas Series. No, Billy didn't buy the Full Gas Series. He was interested in it. He didn't buy it. We bought it. Oh, well, that's interesting. Let's figure this out. Call the landowners. Hey, man, are we still good on these dates? Can we come racing here on these dates? I'm taking over the Full Gas Series. We're going to come there. It's going to be the Full Gas Sprint Duro. What do you mean? Billy already called me and said that he's doing the Full Gas Series now, and he's already got those dates lined up. So now at this point, I didn't know what in the world's going on. Landowners are saying that they thought Billy was taking over Full Gas. Sponsors were saying that they thought Billy was taking over Full Gas. The AMA was saying that they thought Billy was taking over Full Gas. And looking back on it, I don't know what I could have done differently because I didn't want to go to all these people. I knew what my plan was, and I knew what our plan was, and I knew what we were talking about as far as doing it. And that was the strange part. I wasn't going to be the one to go around saying, hey, I think I'm going to get this, because at the time, I thought I had a 50-50 shot. I thought me and another person both had the same opportunity to get it, and so I wasn't going to go to all these people and claim something that wasn't mine. And so 3 weeks later, when it was going to be mine, and my partner's obviously, but that's when I finally started to reach out to these other people. Well, come to find out, they had been contacted weeks prior. And so it turned into this big old thing. Well, we already promised this, and we already said that, and we're already doing this because we thought he was Full Gas. And so that's where things started to unravel. And it was weird that the way that it happened. And so then we're going back and forth with the AMA and talking to the guy at the AMA, and he kind of pieced it all together, and we were going through what had happened. And I said, that's cool that he was in talks before, but I was like, we came to terms. We got a contract. Like, we're ready to go. We're ready to take over. And then he said, well, Billy has already came up with another series, and he's still planning to run his series. We have dates for his series. He has a new name for his new series. And he's like, he's planning on going no matter what. And I said, okay, well, that is what it is, I guess, but we're still going to run Full Gas. And so in my mind, it's like, well, Full Gas is going to continue as Full Gas. We're going to have the Full Gas locations. We're going to have the Full Gas sponsors. And if Billy wants to start another series and run as well, then there'll be 2 Sprint Duro series and more places for everyone to race. And it is what it is. Now, the one concern there was Sprint Duro on the whole is the smaller of all the series as far as turnouts are concerned. So it's like you take the one that already has lower turnouts in total, even though you're racing for 2 days. So you're basically buying 2 race entries, but total number of riders was already the lowest, and now you're going to take that and split that already niche crowd into 2 different sections. I was like, yeah, there could be some ways that this could go south, but at that point, that was the intention. Like, hey, we're going to do Full Gas, because Billy had been running. They have another series up in Maryland that they do where it's Sprint Duros and Hare Scrambles. So it's like, I don't know if they're going to continue under that name. I don't know if they're just going to add to that series. Or maybe Billy just had interest in seeing that Sprint Duro kept racing. Billy never missed a test of Full Gas. He was the only person that raced every single test of Full Gas that ever happened. Not every single race, every single test in Full Gas's existence he raced. So I was like, maybe he just wanted to make sure that there was still a sprint series. So maybe he finds out that we're doing this, that he'll just stick with his series that he's been doing and come run Full Gas like he's been doing, and nothing changes on his end, and everyone still gets Full Gas and everyone still wins. And come to find out that wasn't the case. And then the AMA tried to basically play middleman, and something I was very receptive to. And I actually talked to Billy several times throughout this process about working together, because it seemed like he was pretty set on going forward with what he was doing. And I still wanted to see Full Gas continue on the way that Full Gas was, under the Full Gas name, under the Full Gas logo, under the Full Gas prestige. I mean, the 5-year history that it built, the champions that it built. I wanted to continue on with that. He didn't really see the need to do that. So I talked with him several times. The last conversation that we ever had was I spoke with him on the phone and said, hey, man, I want to be involved. Right now, we have everything negotiated out. I can get all this stuff from Full Gas. We can be Full Gas, and we can work together on this. I was like, I want to know what you would expect from me, and I just want to be a part of this thing. It is essentially the last conversation that we had, and Billy told me that he had never worked with a partner in that capacity as far as the race was concerned, and he said that he would think about it, and then he would let me know. So I never heard from Billy again after that. That was the last conversation I've had with him to this day. But in doing that, called back to the AMA, and he said, so Billy's definitely running this series. You definitely want to run Full Gas. Are you going to do it? And I said, yeah, we've agreed to terms. We're going to run Full Gas. He said, okay, well, out of respect, I need to call Billy and let Billy know that you are planning on moving forward and doing Full Gas. I said, okay, no problem. 37 minutes after that phone call, the Facebook post of US Sprint Enduro happened. So they weren't planning on releasing it that day. And I think once they found out that we were about to make the post that Full Gas was going to continue and basically make the public release that Full Gas was back, I think it pressured them into putting their post out sooner. So they put out their post, didn't have a website built, didn't have a page built, didn't have anything built really, and just threw it out there, I think just so they could be first to it and really get the buzz going, which they absolutely did. I mean, that post went everywhere. I think everybody saw it. Everyone's talking about it. Everyone's wondering what's going on. And because of that, it just kind of left us on the back burner like, all right, so what do we do? How do we approach this? What is the best way to do this without confusing everybody? And once again, the way that it happened, the typical thing that we kept hearing was that it was the assumption that Billy was running Full Gas. And so since we had already negotiated this thing, you may notice right after that US Sprint Enduro, the initial post for that, all of a sudden there was a Full Gas post that Hooper posted and said, hey, you guys, I don't know if it's still up or not. He might have deleted it after all this stuff happened, but that Full Gas post came out and said, hey, just want to let you guys know, you probably saw another Sprint Enduro series announce that they're forming. Just want to let you know they are not affiliated with Full Gas, and Full Gas is currently working with new promoters to take over the series and continue it on. So the reason that post was made is because so many people thought that this new series was Full Gas, when in reality it was not Full Gas. It was all of the makings of Full Gas, but done off the record and kind of rogue to build this series. And this is the line that I was talking about. I don't want to get into opinions or he said, she said. I'm just telling you the facts of what happened and what was told to me. And as far as other people being under the impression that somebody had already bought Full Gas. So that's the way that whole thing came to be. The locations, I mean, there was a couple of them that I got back, said, hey, if you're still going to be Full Gas, then we're going to honor Full Gas. Probably the one that Full Gas was most famous for was probably the one that I thought would be the easiest to get back. I'm good friends with them folks, and that turned out that was the one that wasn't going to change at all. So that was a big thorn in the side and one of the driving factors to figure out what in the world to do. But at that point, like I said, there's already a Sprint Enduro series. There's no point in running two Sprint Enduro series. And then honestly, at that point, I was like, hammering all them mistakes and doing all that work really isn't all that it's cracked up to be anyway. My only goal in this whole scenario was to keep Sprint Enduro around. I mean, since Full Gas Sprint Enduro series started, America has won 2 world titles, I think 2 junior titles. We've won 2 women's titles, all at the ISDE. We had the first 2 American overall winners ever in the ISDE's history. This is a series that is important for racing, and it's important for training at the ISDE, and all of these riders have said that having Sprint Enduro races here stateside is a big reason why we saw the uptick in success at the ISDEs. And so my whole purpose in this whole thing was to keep Sprint Enduro racing alive. Once this got all the way to this point with the US Sprint Enduro Series and with what we were trying to do, at that point, I was like, well, there's no point competing against each other. That's not going to accomplish anything. That's going to hurt everybody. There's another sprint series forming. It's going to cover a lot of the same area. Hopefully it's going to be ran the same. And hopefully it keeps Sprint Enduro racing around. I was like, that was my only goal for this. So then there were some other ideas to still move forward with Full Gas and the name and the branding and all that stuff and change up the format. So it wasn't Sprint Enduro racing. We were going to do things a little bit differently, which I'm not going to go into details about that. But we had an idea to change it. Still continue on that legacy that Full Gas made, but change it up a little bit, not necessarily do sprint enduros, kind of do a hybrid of a few different series, put it all together, and create another new series. Full Gas was known for coming in and making a brand new series. We were going to kind of rebrand it and take the brand new series and make that a brand new series and another first as far as what we were going to do. And so we were still going back and forth on that, and obviously at that point, things change because there is another Sprint Enduro series. This is a Sprint Enduro series we're trying to get, and it really just muddied up the waters a lot, to be honest with you. But in the middle of these negotiations, things kind of just weren't working in our favor. I mean, as far as having the other series and the other series going after all the same exact sponsors that Full Gas had, and so then budgets being transferred and budgets being split, and now we're getting into late January, and then all of a sudden we're in February, and now all of a sudden it's March, and all the races are starting, and it was just getting to a point where we could no longer proceed because we had no locations, we had no sponsors, we had scheduling conflicts, and it was hard to figure out because of the way that the other series was put together. And it was just tough. We were trying everything we could to make it work, pushing back our start date to Memorial Day. Or first it was Easter, then it was pushed back to Memorial Day. We were trying to figure out when we could get in places, when we could do this, when we could do that. And in the midst of all of this, the NEPG, out of nowhere, announced that Alan Rant was stepping down, and this was going to be their last year of promoting the NEPG series. And NEPG is a lot different because it is a national championship. Full Gas was a regional championship. The U.S. Sprint Enduro is a featured championship, so it's below regional. But National Enduro was a national championship, and now all of a sudden it didn't have a promoter. We're still in the middle of negotiations with this series that's basically fallen apart because of the way that another series was formed in its place, and all of a sudden saw the National Enduro thing as an opportunity. And looking back, I wish the Full Gas thing would have happened. I wish that we could have done that differently. Had I known that there was a chance that Full Gas was going to go away, if we could have negotiated it before anything was announced, and I don't think anyone would have ever known the difference. I think all the sponsors would have stayed on board, all the teams would have stayed on board, all the locations would have stayed on board. I think it would have been business as usual. I mean, like I said, I was there announcing, and then all of a sudden I show up announcing again, and I'm just answering more questions than I was when I was announcing. And I think that would have been a seamless transition into it. But because of the way that it was announced, that was a big reason why sponsors were telling us that they weren't going to give us the money that they had already allowed for it, because of the confusion that it caused. Everyone thought Full Gas was done, and now all of a sudden there's a new series. And so the way that it was shut down combined with the way that the other series was started is why it never came to fruition, which really bums me out. And I think Hooper can be completely happy with his legacy of the Full Gas series. I hope this in no way tarnishes it. I know a lot of people question the post that he made and he put out there about it on his own, not necessarily the Full Gas page, but on his. And I don't know. The whole thing just turned really weird because I went from not knowing this was going to happen to all of a sudden maybe running it, to all of a sudden everything folding and falling apart in front of me. And it was just a lot going on and a lot to deal with and a lot to figure out. And I'm bummed out it didn't work because, like I said, Full Gas is something that meant so much to me, and I think it's something that is very well respected, and I think it is something that is going to be off-road legend for the rest of time with how quickly it became what it was and how well it was ran and all the good things that it did do. So by in no way, shape, or form am I saying anything negative about Full Gas. I just hate the way that everything transpired with it. I wish anybody, if it wasn't me, if it was Billy, I wish that Full Gas could have just continued on without all the convolution, without all the complications and confusion of everybody. But yeah, so anyway, fast forward, NEPG happens. All of a sudden, we get in contact with them because we're like, hey, we were taking over Full Gas. This whole thing's kind of falling apart. We saw that you guys are stepping down. We would like to see what it would take to get involved with that. And there was a rider that was very, influential in getting that whole thing lined up, both with the guy that was helping me out and going in on this with me, and then also on the end of the National Enduro and Alan Rant's part. So they kind of bridged that gap and put us all in touch. So we start figuring all that out, start talking to him. Everything sounds good. Everything's perfect. Met him at one of the GNCC races. Us three sat down, talked about everything, kind of went over the details, everything that was going on. Everything looked good. All right, we're fine. And then next thing I know, there was another person that put in a proposal to run it because Full Gas was something that Hooper created. National Enduro is property of the AMA. It is the AMA. It's actually called the AMA Grand National Enduro Series, which is funny that the Grand is in there. But it is actually owned by the MMA or the AMA. So the National Enduro cannot technically be bought, but NEPG is the National Enduro Promotions Group. NEPG is a company owned by Alan Rant that had the contract to promote the National Enduro Series. So you cannot buy that series, but the company that was promoting it, that's what we were in talks with. And so that became pretty public knowledge. I mean, it was said, it was announced, it was talked about. I was introduced to the clubs of the races that I did go to. I mean, Alan was telling people what was going on. I was telling people what was going on. We were communicating on what's the best way to get this news out to the public. And everything seemed to be going perfect. And then we found out that another very big, very well-known company had put in a proposal to get the rights to run the National Enduro Series. And so then the whole thing kind of came crashing to a halt because we're like, all right, well, even if we are the owners of National Enduro, the AMA still gets to decide who they want to run their series. So right now that contract is there. If that contract switches hands, do we still have the rights or will this other person get the rights? And with the other group that was involved, it kind of seemed like a no-brainer that they were going to get the rights over us. So then we set up a call essentially with Alan, myself, my partner, and then the bigwigs at the AMA, like the big boys at the AMA. We did like a 2-hour-long conference call, kind of talked about everything, talked about our intentions, talked about my experiences, talked about his experiences, talked about what's going on, how it was going to happen, what was going to happen. And basically at the end of it, the AMA felt comfortable with the transition going to us, and we were going to be able to take over the National Enduro Series. So then that was crisis averted. Everything's good. We're solid. We're good to go. I got a plane ticket to go to the next National Enduro race in Louisiana because we're like, all right, perfect. At this time, only one National Enduro round had happened. So I was like, okay, cool. I get the rest of the year to go and kind of shadow Alan, be Alan's shadow, and learn the ins and outs and learn about this series. So that way next year I'll be able to hit the ground running and know exactly what was going on and have a lot of the same crew there with me that's been running it. So then they would know what was going on. So everything was perfect. So we go to the first round, talking to everybody, and every single person that came through that line, when you go to National Enduro, you have to get your helmet stickers and you have to check your transponders. And so I sat right there, right where the transponders is, talked to everybody. Hey, thanks for coming. I thanked every single person that came by there. Thanks for coming. Thanks for coming out. Thanks for racing. And because it started raining, that whole race kind of turned into a whirlwind of stuff. But anyway, so I was there. Alan was telling people what was going on. I was telling people what was going on. I was meeting the sponsors of the series. I was meeting the guys that run the club for the series, and everything was going good. Everything I thought went perfect. I'm learning how to do these things. I'm riding the trails. I'm marking the trails. I'm setting up banners. I'm setting up the truck, setting up podiums, announcing podiums, taking pictures, taking videos, taking all sorts of stuff. Everything's good. We leave that one. Talk to Alan afterwards. Hey, what's going on? He said, no, everything's good. He apologized for things that he said to me, and he kind of said that he has a habit of thinking that people know stuff and realized that I needed to be taught stuff and that I didn't just know it and blah, blah, blah. It was a fairly productive conversation. We go to the next race, show up at that one, same thing, helping set up, helping ride trails, helping do this, stood there in line. Thank you guys for coming. Everyone's asking me, so what's going on? I'm telling them, yep, I'll be running it next year. Really, I mean, that was the story. There was no story other than that. And, yeah, everything I thought went fine at that race, and we got through another one and did podiums and packed everything up and left, and that was it. And then fast forward, it was time for the next race, which was going to be my third race, the fourth race of the series. I get a call from my partner and says that Alan told him that he doesn't want me there, doesn't want me running the series, and wouldn't do business with us if I was going to be the one running the series. Completely took me off guard. I thought it was a joke. I had not heard of one negative thing that I had done. I had talked to him after every round. I thought I did my part. I didn't really get the opportunities to learn things that I feel like I should have been able to learn, but I kind of went on my own to learn those things and went to the other people that I had available to ask questions and learn things, and really thought I picked it up pretty quick, making good interactions with everybody, learning the ropes, figuring things out. I mean, doing things on my own, not asking the same questions twice. I mean, I thought everything was going perfect, and then all of a sudden I get this call saying that I can't be the guy and that I'm not welcome there, and that that whole thing is what really threw me for a loop, because ever since January, when the full gas stuff happened, all the way through, I think this was May that we had got to now, I mean, my day-to-day life was figuring these things out. Figuring things out first with full gas, and then figuring out things with National Enduro once that whole thing started happening. And to the point where, I mean, this isn't something that is just something you do on the side. You know what I mean? Like, this was what I was planning the rest of my life on. I mean, racing is my passion. I had everything planned out, and I took mental ownership of it because of the way things fell through in the first one. It was such a letdown, and then the National Enduro thing happens, and it builds me back up, and everything's looking great. I mean, we're planning out where I'm going to park the rig. I mean, I'm looking at new houses, so I have a place to park the rig. Telling my boss at work, telling him what's going on. Hey, I'm going to be doing this. I'm just going to need a couple extra weekends off. Going to be doing this and running the series. And I mean, he knows how passionate I am about racing. I have my job now because of racing. He knows I do the podcast. And so to go to him, my full-time employer, and let him know that this National Enduro thing was happening, and I would need some time to help run those and everything that was going on. I mean, I think the best way to say it is I took mental ownership of it. Everything was going perfect. We went through the initial hiccups. We got the AMA's blessing about the contract, and everything was looking good. Went to the first two races. Everything was good. I was learning things, well receptive to people. Yeah, it was kind of weird. So for me, I think also a big reason why this whole thing hit home so much is I've spent the last 6 years going to races every single weekend, and a lot of you see me out there every single weekend. And even now, people that I've known years, some of my best friends, they find out that I have siblings. They're like, I didn't know you had a brother. I didn't know you had a sister. I got 3 sisters and 2 brothers. oh, I've never even seen your mom. I've never even seen your dad. That's because they've never been to any races. So I guess what I'm getting at with that is in 12 years of school, I went to 13 different schools. I was always moving around. Everywhere I went, I was the new guy. Like I have no lifelong friends right now. Everybody in my life right now I know because of racing. And it's because every year I was at a new school. Every year I was a new guy. Every year there was something different. And this past 6 years with racing has been the closest thing to family that I've had in my life. And it's not an exaggeration. That's the truth. I mean, I talk to my buddy's parents on the phone more than I talk to my parents on the phone. And I mean, more of my race moms and race families are more invested in my racing than anyone in my family. And it's just kind of one of those weird things where racing has given me that sense of family and it's given me that sense of community. And to get to this point where I would be running a series, it's every aspiration that I had bundled up into one. I mean, I started this podcast 4 years ago, and ever since then, the only thing I've ever said is all I want to do is shine a brighter light on off-road racing. All I want to do is bring more attention, more sponsors, and more money to these riders. Bring more attention to the sport, more recognition, more respect for the sport. This podcast has cost me money over the past 4 years, and I don't think people realize that. I've never made money until recently on it, and even still, I've spent way more money doing this podcast than probably what I'll ever make doing it, because I don't do this for the money. I do this because I love dirt bikes, and I like getting the stories out, and I like getting what these riders are doing out to a new audience and a bigger audience. You can read about motocross, you can read about supercross. At the time I started this, there was no one talking about off-road racing. And now there are more podcasts going and more shows going, and that's cool. It's getting the word out there more. But, I mean, all those years I went to GNCCs and taking all those pictures, and I've never gotten paid for any of that. And now you see people that show up to a race and their very first weekend with a camera, they make a smug mug and charge $10 a picture and want to make money. And then they're calling sponsors and calling people and trying to get contracts and make money, and, oh, I'm not going unless I'm making any money. I'll tell you right now, every GNCC that I've ever gone to, and for the past 5 or 6 years I've been at almost all of them, I've not made a dime. When I was working for GNCC, they paid me. But other than that, I was spending money to go to these things. I was taking all these pictures of all the pros and all these pictures of all these people, and I wasn't making a dime. I was spending money to get to the races. I was spending money to race, and then I was spending my time to take the pictures, edit the pictures, put the pictures up, go and tag people in the pictures, and then go like the pictures that people posted that I took of them and didn't even give me credit for. But to me, that's never what it was about. It was about getting the good content out there. It was about getting what was going on out there. The only picture I ever got paid for is the 2-page spread in Racer X magazine on the table of contents. I got paid for that picture. And I almost gave that away free. And if they told me they weren't going to pay me, I would have given it away for free. That's my point in this whole thing, is that there's people that get in it for the wrong reasons. There's people that get in it for the right reasons. And for me, this is just 100% passion. I mean, I took these past couple months off, and I paid for those months for the podcast, and I don't want to make this thing all about money. I guess what I'm trying to do is just basically convey the fact that this was my passion. I had no ulterior motive. Like, to me, this was me getting to run a series, me getting to do this for a living, and it was absolutely unreal to me. It was more than anything that I've ever wanted. Also, with my dad, he's got health issues going on and all sorts of stuff, but I've watched him work his entire life away. All he's ever done is work. He's never took time to smell the roses. He works and he works and he works and he works, and he comes home and he sleeps, and then on the weekends he works on the house, and then on Monday he goes back to work. And that's why I try to do so much, and I travel so much, and that's why I got into racing dirt bikes, and that's why I hunt and scuba dive and skateboard and ride motorcycles, and I do all of that because I want to live life. I don't want to end up one day wondering what if, or one day realizing that I gave 40, 50, 60 hours a week to somebody else, but then I never took any time for myself. And so that's why this whole thing affected me the way that it did, because the highs and the lows of the full gas and everything we went through, and then the highs and the lows of National Enduro and everything that we went through, it didn't make sense to me that we jumped through all these hoops, all this stuff happened, and now the only thing standing in the way of me and my dreams is someone's opinion of me that has met me 3 times in their entire life. And I think that's what hurts the most, is that to this day, it has not been explained to me why that opinion was made of me. Even though I directly asked, how can you draw this conclusion after meeting me twice? Basically, the concerns that he conveyed to other people, not to me, but that he conveyed to other people, the things that he said were my weaknesses, I think anybody that knows me would describe as my strengths. And that's why I think this is it was a really unfair way for this thing to end. All the hoops that we jumped through, all the stuff with the AMA, telling the public, telling the riders, telling the teams, telling the sponsors, telling everybody what was going on. And now I felt embarrassed to even show up at a race, because what do I say? Everyone knows this was what was supposed to happen. Everyone knows that I was in talks to take this thing over. Everyone knows that we were going to be running this thing. Now what do I say when I show up at a race? That old man doesn't like me. That's literally all I have to go on. I don't think I did anything wrong. I don't think I did anything egregious. I went there and worked my ass off, not even thinking I was going to get paid. I ended up getting paid a little bit. I got paid for 4 days of work, less than what I got paid for 1 day of announcing at Full Gas. But once again, it wasn't about the money. If I could pay my bills and do something I love, that's what it was all about. And I think that's just what hit me the hardest, is that this whole thing unfolded and it's completely out of my control. I mean, I feel like I did everything I did in the situation. I feel like I would do everything I could do going forward. And right now it's just not going to happen, and I have no say in it. I have no explanation of it. I have no reason. The very last podcast that I've done, if you go back and listen to it again, I sat there and went on an entire tangent about Alan Rant and about Mark and about their buddies and about how cool it was to sit there and listen to their conversations. And I talked about how much he knew about the sport, and I talked about how cool it was to be able to learn from him. And little did I know, not even a week later, he was going to be calling someone willing to invest a lot of money into me running a company. He, after meeting me twice, called that person and told them that I wasn't fit to do the job that they were willing to invest their money into me doing. Excuse my language, that's just not fucking fair. And I don't know how else to say it. So that's why the podcast hasn't happened. That was a 58-minute roundabout way to explain that I haven't done this podcast in the past 3 months because I'm embarrassed to even show up to a race right now. I'm embarrassed to talk about dirt bikes. I'm embarrassed to even go around dirt. But the thing that has brought me everything I have in my life, every friend that I have, every relationship I have, my job, my house, everything in my life right now is because of dirt bikes and because of racing. I finally got to the point where my life was going to be this thing that I fell in love with, this thing that gave me a sense of family, this thing that gave me a sense of pride, this thing that I worked my ass off to get to the position that I'm at for, was going to be what I was going to do, and then it gets pulled out from underneath me. And like I said, I don't even have an explanation. Everyone knew about the Full Gas thing, and then all of a sudden the Full Gas thing isn't happening. It's like, what the hell, Tyler? Did you lie to us? No, I didn't lie. Just that's what happened. That's the way it worked out. I wasn't comfortable with telling people how it worked out until now. Then National Enduro happens. Oh, that's awesome. You're running National Enduro. That's going to be a way better gig. That's awesome. And now it's not happening. Full Gas, there's a reason why it fell apart. There's things that happen. There is no reason. There is no explanation. When I directly ask for an explanation, I don't get it. I don't know why this is not happening. And because of that, I don't know what is being said about me, and I don't know what is being said as to why this isn't happening. So I was at a loss. I deleted all my social media at that time. I sold all my bikes, sold my dirt bikes, sold everything, and I was ready to be done. But this is the closest thing to family I've ever had. This is the biggest passion that I've ever had. I mean, I grew up wrestling. I won a state championship. I got into MMA. I've skateboarded my whole life. I've won pro skateboarding contests. I've been sponsored for skateboarding. Nothing has affected me the way that dirt bikes have, even though I barely won a regional C-class championship in dirt bikes. I'm way better at so many other things than dirt bikes, but nothing has given me a family like dirt bikes. Nothing has given me experiences like dirt bikes. Nothing has let me see the parts of this country that I've seen from riding dirt bikes. Nothing has impacted my life the way that dirt bikes have impacted my life. And to build myself up and get to the position where I had someone willing to invest their hard-earned money into me running a series, and then have somebody that doesn't even know me tell that person they can't do that because they don't like me, what am I supposed to do? I don't know what I'm supposed to do. So, I mean, I've had thoughts. Like I said, I sold everything. I wanted to get away from it. I wanted to get out of it. Be honest with you, I just want to hide under my covers and never show my face again. I don't want to go to another race. But 3 months have passed, and this is still all I care about. I bought a boat, been fishing. I'm out on the boat thinking about riding a dirt bike. GNCC's this weekend. There's nothing more that I want to do than go to the race this weekend. So it's something that I can't stay away from. I really thought that this was going to be the end of the line. I really thought that as quick as I came in, I was about to be right back out. But I mean, I'm recording this podcast because this is what I care about, and I care about you all that listen. It blows my mind how many people listen to this. It blows my mind how many places this has been to. It blows my mind how many people read stupid articles that I wrote last week, and it blows my mind that even now I get messages asking when the next podcast is going to be. So as bummed out as I was, this is still my passion. I'll still continue to cover stuff. I'd like to get another bike eventually and like to race eventually. But yeah, I plan to keep the podcast back going because of the following that you all have given me. So if you're still listening to this right now, I know I say it a lot, but I really thank you for listening and for being here at this point and for listening to OTP. It really means a lot, and just because I went through some shit doesn't mean that everyone else needs to be punished for it. And I mean, I also don't mean to sound like I'm on a soapbox. There are probably 3 people that listen to this right now, but to me, it's something that's important to me. It's something that I've built up, something that I'm proud of, and it gives me something to do and something to talk about. And like I said, the whole focus from this thing from the beginning was never me. It was about the riders and about the sport and about bringing more attention and more coverage to it. So anyway, that is the long story long of what happened with everything. I don't know. It's kind of been a weird ending. Like I said, I don't know why it ended. I have a phone call with him asking all these questions. I never got a single question answered. Just kind of avoided them all. So I don't know where things stand. Last time I talked to AMA a few weeks ago, they didn't even know that we weren't taking it over. I know there's been other people that are helping. I don't know if he's planning on keeping it and other people run. I don't know what's going on with it. But it doesn't look good for me. And it just kind of sucks. But it is what it is. Made some really good friends. The 2 guys that follow around with the National Enduro Series. They're both really cool guys. wish I could have got to spend more time with them. I think we instantly got along and instantly connected, and it was really cool to hang out with them and to get to know them. And hopefully we can get together and do some riding or something someday soon. But yeah, it was a really cool experience. I'm thankful for it. I'm thankful for the 2 races that I was able to be a part of. I wish I could have been a part of more, and I don't know. That's all I gotta say about that. Just reading through my notes here. There was other stuff I wanted to talk about, but it's kind of hard to transition now. But yeah, U.S. Sprint Enduro happened because of the way that happened. That's also why I never posted results, never talked about them on here, which was selfish of me, and it's really dumb of me, and we'll cover them going forward. People ran number 1 plates in that series this year, even though it was a brand new series and there was no champions, but somehow people were running number 1 plates. Next year they'll actually have number 1 plates because they've existed. Lane Michael won that championship. Super pumped from Lane. Lane is one of the nicest dudes out there. I couldn't be happier for him that he was able to win that Sprint Enduro championship. Super pumped for Lane. Johnny Gerard won the Pro 2 championship, and I think Taylor won, or maybe Rachel won. I don't remember now. So yeah, I guess U.S. Sprint Enduro is happening next year. I'm not sure. I know they had a lot more people working, and they had a lot less people racing. So I'm not sure how all that correlates, but hopefully they'll be back next year and still giving people some Sprint Enduros to ride. I'll kind of move on from all of that and cover that. Like I said, that was completely my fault. That was me being a big baby, and I apologize for that. So we'll cover them going forward. Ben and Stu, this is a battle that's coming down to the wire in both series. Ben Kelly currently leads the GNCC series with 212 points. Stu in second with 203 points. Jordan Ashburn is 50 points almost back from that with 158. So it's going to be a race down to the wire between Ben and Stu for that GNCC championship. Right now, Stu is quite a bit ahead in the National Enduro Championship, 160 to Ben's 121, but Ben won the last race, and he's been picking up momentum, so I think that one could come down to the wire as well. These are going to be a couple battles that are going to be really fun to watch throughout the rest of the year, with Stu switching over to that Yamaha. He was on Sherco last year. We all know what happened with that, and now he's on Yamaha this year, but no doubt KTM wants to keep those championships under their belt, and Stu is trying his hardest to make sure that doesn't happen. So that's going to be some races that are going to come down to the wire. They're going to be awesome to watch. Can't wait. Looking forward to seeing all of that. We'll quickly glance over some of the news. This is stuff that I have heard. This is not me saying this. This is me saying that people have said this. So before anyone calls me a liar, I'm not saying these things. I'm just saying people have said these things. Hear that Thad Duvall was offered a 1-year deal with Rockstar Husky to stay with them again. Last I heard, he was undecided as to whether that was going to happen or not. Once again, not me saying it, just things that I've heard. Just because of the time, I don't know if he's looking for a longer term or what he's looking for. It looks like Jonathan Johnson, from what I'm hearing, might be going to the factory beta team, which is also pretty cool that I just saw that Corey Buttrick is now the team manager at beta. So I think that might be a really good landing spot for Jonathan if that happens. Once again, I have no idea if there's any validity to any of this. I'm just telling you what I've heard. And then it seems like JoJo Cunningham is going to be leaving Kawasaki, and not exactly sure where he's going to end up landing. If I had to bet, it would probably be an orange bike, but I don't know. Other than that, the big news I kind of mentioned at the beginning of the show is there's rumors going around, and I don't know why this is even a thing, but like I said, it came from some people that I don't know why they would lie about it, but about Caleb Russell possibly making a comeback, but on a Honda. And the moto thing is something I kind of want to get into detail about and talk about, but I'm not sure that right now is the right time just based off of everything. But if you watch KR's retirement video when he stepped down from racing moto, then it is pretty clear that something didn't go right and that thing did not end on good terms. Now, I don't know any of the details surrounding it. It just looked like Caleb was upset about it in the video, talking about ultimatums that were put on him, and it was his decision to step down. And it kind of seems like things didn't exactly end well. It did not seem like things ended so bad that he would make a return on a different motorcycle to go and win a championship on a not KTM. But there's got to be substance to it because I've heard it from completely different realms of people. I personally don't think that would happen. I mean, they made him his own bike last year. He trains KTM Husky Gas riders. And that's what his next career move is to get into training at his facility in North Carolina and his facility in Florida. I don't see him ever turning his back on KTM. He spent his entire career with KTM. He won, 9, 10, 11 national championships on a KTM, including XC2 and XC1 and a bunch of amateur ones. And I don't see it happening, but it has been thrown out there. Kind of took me by surprise, took everybody else by surprise. I wouldn't put any faith into it, but it was out there. So that's all I got. If you did make it this far, really appreciate you listening. Next Tuesday, we will be back. We'll talk about what happens this weekend at the GNCC, and then each Tuesday after that, we'll be back in your life. Check out ichthuscbd.com. Check out armorgraphics.com. Check out onthepipepodcast.com. I wrote some letters about the ISDE. Probably don't have time to talk about that right now, but if you go on onthepipepodcast.com, you can read some articles that were written with the results from last week. So if you didn't keep up with any of the ISDE, you can go to onthepipepodcast.com and check the results out and see what happened. If I made anybody mad throughout this thing, I'm terribly sorry. This is one of those things where I probably shouldn't have talked about it, but for the sake of my well-being, I just wanted to get it off my chest, basically with the way that things happened and the way that things unfolded. But yeah, didn't mean anything bad by it. Just kind of explaining it from my side. So anyway, there you have it. Thanks for joining us on the Pipe Podcast. I was Tyler Shepardson. We'll see you next Tuesday.